welcome to another extra episode of Arinda Talks. For the next 7 weeks, I will make each week an extra episode with the recaps of the first season of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Spoiler alert. If you don't want to know what is in the episode or about Strange New Worlds, please listen to the episode after you have watched the episode. I will post this episode on Wednesday, just before the next episode will appear on the streaming services. This to avoid spoilers. The USS Enterprise is in orbit around Hammerhead 9, an abandoned colony of the Illyrians, a humanoid race considered outcasts by the Federation due to their use of genetic engineering. On the surface, Captain Pike comments on how genetic modification still put people on edge, even Una, who is standing next to him. She replies simply that she doesn't look like loose ends. As the storm approaches, both see the flimsy shelters as little protection, and Una suggests returning to the ship. Pike orders the landing party to collect their data and return to the rendezvous point for a transport. He attempts to communicate with Spock, but storm interference blocks his signal. He tells Una to gather the rest of the team while he goes after find Spock. One of the landing party crew, an Ensign Lawrence, is peering into a cabinet full of glassware used in scientific research. Noticing it seems to react to his flashlight when Pike spots him and gestures for him to move out. Una assembled her team on the rendezvous point and calls up for transport. Transporter Chief Kyle struggles to get a transporter lock due to storm interferences. He calls to Commander Hammer in engineering and asking for power. Hammer transfers auxiliary power, then calls the bridge to warn them he is tapping into the emerging backups. In the corridor of the ship, the lights flicker and the power is transferred, while the light in engineer becomes brighter. Hammer tells Kyle to try the transporter again. Kyle is stunned at the amount of power he has, to which Hammer replies simply that he was just a genius, before warning the chief to move quickly. This time the transport is successful, but Una expresses the hope that Kyle was not out of miracles yet, because the captain and Spock were still on the surface. Inside one of the colony's libraries, Pike catches up to Spock, who reports that he just has found a previously undiscovered cache of journals that may be of scientific relevance, adding that he was looking forward to reading them. Pike urged him to hurry up to the rendezvous point before the storm overtook them. They reach the rendezvous and Pike calls up for transport, but again Kyle is unable to get a lock, and this time extra power will not help. The storm is too strong. Una tells Pike to find shelter until the storm passes. Pike acknowledges and asks Spock for a suggestion, which Spock answered, "Run." Today I will recap this episode together with my good friend Tommy from Trek Canon. He is also a regular in this podcast and is a big Trekkie who loves to talk about Trek as canon. Good morning, Tommy.
Good. Good morning.
How are you today?
I am fine. I hope you and your listeners are fine as well.
Yeah, I think they're also ready to listen to this new extra episode of Aranda Talks, of course, in the Star Trek series. And of course, we're going to recap today the latest episode of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. So tell me, what do you think of Strange New Worlds, of what we have seen in the last 3 episodes?
Oh, they've been doing a hell of a job. They've returned back to the episodic format. A different story every day, nothing really linked. Yeah, the way they're introducing the characters is nice. The characters who we don't know too much of, they're filling in their backstories well. I'm liking it.
Good, yeah, I'm liking it too. It's very, well, it's everything I hoped for, to be honest.
Likewise, I was a little bit worried there for a minute, Arenda. I'm gonna be honest with you. I was a little worried.
I can understand that. I had it too, in a way.
hmm You know,
So,
after my problem kids, Discovery, Picard, I had to, I was becoming a little weary of my live action Star Trek episode, series now that's coming out. But Strange New Worlds, man, they doing Star Trek justice.
yeah, I, I really like it too. I think it's where a lot of track fans have been waited for.
hmm hmm
So we are starting with, for another time, a this is the first officer's log. Normally we always start with the captain's log, but in the last two episodes we've seen that another crew member is telling or speaking about their logs.
hmm
Um, what do you think about that? Because we always, if we are watching at the most series of Star Trek, we always see hearing the captain's log.
Well, there's been some instances where they, like, especially like in the Next Generation, where they will start a log based from the perspective of the crew member. One of the episodes that popped to mind is the episode Lower Decks from the Next Generation, and they do sometimes have an episode where they focus on a person that's non-captain or non-bridge crew, or one of the lesser senior staff for the bridge crew. But Lord Dex is one that pops into my head where they did the episode from the perspective of those junior officers, and yeah,
Hmm.
that was that. But usually when they do something like that, it's going to be an interesting story, especially in the case with this one, like for instance with the first officer, because number one is one of those people that because of her short stint in the Star Trek canon, we didn't really know too much about. So I was
Yeah.
very glad they focused on it. Yeah. Ears, and I was thinking, do I got some Vulcan ears running around? That's awesome. Never mind.
So I already have talked about with another friend of mine, Mark. But what do you think about the interior and exterior of the Enterprise D? What they make? Because to me it was like an upgrade of an update.
hmm
How did you experience
Well,
that?
okay, right. So, of course, I know that out of all the Star Trek series, the one with the worst production value is the original series. So I know it's a lot of things they couldn't do, right? So I had to keep that in mind when looking at the interior of the Enterprise, because there's certain things that make the bridge of the Enterprise. One of those things, red turbo lift doors. All right. you know. So, but I do like the way that they updated the bridge to
Mm-hmm.
keep it, I guess, to keep it technologically consistent with,
Yeah.
how we can produce things now. But I also like the fact that they kept certain things uh, grounded, like Spock's scanning device or
Yeah.
Uhura's
Yeah.
earpiece for comms. So yeah, I was happy about that. The little changes that they did make, I think, make the ship look better actually. And I know that's
Yeah.
blasphemy to say the old school Trekkies like myself, but I think it actually improved the aesthetics of the ship.
So talking
It's a
about,
bit too much. It's a
yeah.
bit too much room in the corridors, but it almost looks like a Galaxy class ship from the inside. But you know, But yeah, I still like the way that. What about you? Do you think that they did the Constitution class justice?
Yeah, I think they do because we have. That's why I'm asking it too. Of course, we have seen the new refit Enterprise C in Discovery in the first time,
Mm-hmm.
but what they have did now, I really loved it. It is like coming back to from far away, and yeah, it's like you know it, but also not because this is a little bit more modern than we know in TOS. So, talking about Uhura, we have seen in the last, not this episode, but in episode 2, we saw a lot more background of Uhura. What did you thought about that? Or what do you
Oh,
think about this Uhura?
see, okay, Uhura and number one. Those are the people that exactly I'm talking about. Out of all of the bridge crew from the original series, right? Because of the amount of time that number one stayed in the series, I think 1 or 3 episodes, depending on how you want to break down the Cage of Menagerie. But before she took over as Nurse Chapel, so the fact that they gave her a backstory, awesome. And then the other person I thought was always Uhura, and I had mentioned before that out of all the bridge crew, the only person whose first name we didn't know for about 40 years was Uhura.
Yeah, yeah, correct.
You know what I mean? We even knew Chekhov's name. Hey,
Mm-hmm.
Pavel. All right, but we knew that it was a lot of they didn't even tell you exactly in Africa where Uhura was from in the original series. So the way they filled in her backstory was awesome. You knew that, like, for instance, I was talking to somebody. I was like, okay, well, who is the most capable bridge member of the original series? And I have always voted that as your her, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because although we don't know too much about Uhura's backstory, you know, we do know her current story. And Uhura is the only person on the bridge in the original series who has manned every station on the bridge: ops, comms, communications, science, and engineering. She's driven a ship. She's done all of that. She's the only person on the bridge of the original series who's done that. So she's badass. Oh yeah, and she
Mm-hmm.
could sing. And she could sing. So you can't go wrong with that. But to have a storyline on her, and then to have it, throw that little curve in to whereas she was second guessing being in Starfleet. And if you think about it, that mirrors what Nichelle Nichols actually felt when she was playing the part of Uhura in the original series. And what changed her mind was a conversation with Martin Luther King,
Yeah,
who,
I love that one.
exactly. So I like the fact that they put that in there because that was a very important moment in Nichelle Nichols' life, which translated to Uhura's life. So to have Cadet Uhura be like, well, I'm second guessing being in Starfleet, to mirror that was just, I think that was outstanding writing.
So, they are on in orbit of a Arian planet, and they were
Hmm.
there for a standard mission. There's a iron storm on the way,
Oh, the
and
Iron Storm.
so Pike was saying, "Okay, I don't like this, so let's get out of here." But so he orders Una, number one, to go to the beam up place. And he was contacting Spock, but they couldn't contact him because of the iron storm. It was too heavy.
Mm.
So Pike said, "Okay, go on. I will go find him." And one of the junior members of the team was looking at a box with glass thingies in, and there was something that he was the one who got the virus,
Mm-hmm.
and so Pike found Spock, and I must say I liked the leather jackets what they were.
They were smooth, right?
Yeah, I really liked those.
Hmm. I
Um,
hope they start selling those one day because I will have to buy one.
I know, I was saying that to my partner as well. I really love them, but they was looking more also like what Picard has worn in. I thought Picard had one in TNG, but also in Picard.
Yeah, he did. He had that really smooth one with the leather. It was like leather and suede. That thing was really smooth too. Hmm.
Yeah.
He was the only one who wore it. I was like, hey, that Captain Privilege.
I must really say, and at the time that they did that in TNG, that Picard was, they were just changing his clothes in a uniform. I was thinking, why would you do that? I didn't like it in first, but I must say that Sir Patrick is really dressing hip for, well, how old is he? Almost 90?
Yeah. He almost a century. He almost is real life Picard age.
Yeah, indeed.
You speak of the ion storm, right? And
Mm-hmm.
we always joke about the ion storm because it's too okay. First of all, whenever there's a storm in Star Trek, it's gonna be an ion storm. It's just how it is. If you're on a planet, if you're in orbit of a planet, if you flying your ship through space and it's a storm, it's an ion storm. So this is the thing. So we was thinking, all right. So when they say an ion storm, is it storming ions or is it a lightning storm that they refer to an
Mm-hmm.
ion storm, right? So, but we do know that if you ever need a bad guy storm, it's going to be an ion storm. It's not going to be a tachyon storm. It's not going to be a chronoton storm. It's going to be an ion storm. So I always thought that every time I see an ion storm, I know it's going to be something fun. Hmm.
Yeah. Well, the Iron Storm was causing a lot of problems.
Hmm.
And when Una and her team wanted to beam up, the Iron Storm was making it difficult. The chief transporter was calling Chief Hammer from engineering to ask, well, I need more power, can you give it to me? But I must say, I think Chief Hammer is very mysterious.
He cracks me up. He makes me laugh almost every time he says something.
Talking about the humor in this series, there, especially Spock, he is so full of humor. All of them are.
Hmm.
Even
Hmm.
my partners Simon said, well, it looks like it's almost looks like that Seth MacFarlane has written those jokes in because it's very his humor.
That could also be why it's so well done, though, because Orville is an outstanding substitute for Star Trek, and Seth MacFarlane has a love on a level of me for
Yeah.
Star Trek. So, yeah, I can see what you mean, though, as far as the humor goes. Hmm. So you say he's mysterious, like. What do
Well,
you find mysterious about him? Like just his demeanor, how quiet he is, what?
it's more like I can't. Normally, I can read people very good, but I can't read him. He is, in one way, very, yeah, I don't know, to himself. But
Hmm.
in the two episodes that he has played now, I still can't figure him out in a way of, okay, sometimes he can be genius, but he can also, he's very sensitive, if you can see, like, because Uhura wanted to help him chop the vegetables, and he was more or less a little bit of offended with it. I don't know. It's like that, and in this episode too, I don't know if it is his geniusness, or it was that he was that he had the virus and was. How the hell are you be able to bring a center of the planet into the transporter?
Oh man, they do that all the time.
Oh yeah, they do that all the time, she says. Jeez.
Yes, they've beamed up parts of planet cores. They've beamed up parts of ion storms, even. Especially in Next Generation, they was always doing stuff like that. Man, they'll beam up pieces of planets and of the atmosphere and stuff like that to experiment on it or hold it in stasis or put it in the medical field because somebody like Tom Paris then changed his biology. Yeah, they did all kind of cool stuff like that. What I found amazing though was how he contained the heat, because
Yeah.
that was, dude was serious. He said, you know what? Okay, let me go back. So his personality to me, why I think he's hilarious, because do you remember Captain Shran from Enterprise?
Yeah.
Okay, you remember his personality? He was kind of he was arrogant. He was also a genius, but he could be a butthole at times. But once he liked you, you know,
Then he
he
is
had your
okay.
back no matter what. Yeah. So I'm thinking that that's just an Andorian trait, kind of to be butthole, like he was with Uhura. When he first met her, he was kind of like a butthole to her until he heard her speak his language.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
in which
Yeah.
case he was like, I like her. She's straight.
Yeah.
I think that's just an Andorian thing. I think Andorian is just like, I think they just buttholes until they get to know you and like you. But he runs a tight ship, because I have never seen anybody in none of Star Trek snap their fingers and everybody leave.
Oh my god, yeah, I wanted to talk about that too. It's like he got that future of him and said, okay, that's my wish. You are
Yep.
my command.
Contrast that with Geordi. All right, everybody, get out of here, get out of here. He rolling all up on doors and stuff like that, man, showing people out. This dude just snapped his fingers. See, Geordi needs to take some lessons from him, man. Geordi could clear out an engineering department quick. I was like, wow, did this dude just snap his fingers? And everybody, did nobody say nothing? Everybody just, all right, we go. Like they had to practice that. They had to, at some point, this dude was like, okay, check this out, that's what I'm gonna do. I don't want to say nothing. When I say stuff, it's only because it's a genius stuff. I'm gonna snap, and then y'all leave. But yeah, he's fun to me. I like him. Especially like in what was it, episode 2, how he was going around a ship to determine, you know, how he tracked down the cause of the issue, how he was, his whole process, how he was isolating systems, and you know, he's not the nicest person to come to with your request, but he will handle your request. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. You know, his work ethic remind me like Chief O'Brien. Chief O'Brien was also the man to go, and like I always said, he's the one who kept Tarak Noor or Deep Space Nine going.
Mm-hmm.
And what I think maybe it is like an Andorian feature that he is like, okay, I'm the boss here, so listen to me. But yeah, he has, in a way of, I think we're going to see more of him.
Oh yeah, he's nice. Well, the thing is though, if they stay true to canon, he shouldn't last. Well, he wasn't in the original series, and this is why I'm gonna say if they stay true to canon, because in canon, Pike had a different chief medical officer, all right, and he had a different chief of engineering, okay, and as a matter of fact, Scotty didn't really come on to the Enterprise, I think, until later in season 1. For the first few episodes of the original series, it wasn't Scotty. It was several other engineers. So I wonder how they're going to reconcile that. Actually, I'm wondering how they're going to reconcile several things from this series into actual canon. You know what I mean? I'm happy that they had Robert April in, who was the original captain
Mm,
of the NCC Enterprise. You know, that was cool to have him, in there. But for instance, Pike's story, the engineer, Dr. Umbutu, he's kind of
mm.
sprinkled in everywhere in the original series. So he's straight. But the chief engineer, the doctor, and Pike, I wonder how they're going to resolve them in canon.
Talking about the Doctor, I think his appearance in this episode was very weak.
Yeah, especially his decision-making process.
Yeah, but it's just, yeah, if you were to compare him with McCoy or one of the other doctors, those are standing their ground, and he was just, I don't know. It was not that I will see him reacting like a doctor.
Mm. Do you know who he reminds me of? He reminds me of Dr. Daystrom from the original series when Daystrom made his first appearance. As a matter of fact, Daystrom from the original series and Daystrom from Enterprise. They
Mm,
when they remind me. Umbutu reminds me so much of him. Like when Daystrom made his appearance on Enterprise and that tragic story with his son. You know,
yeah.
it it mirrored that to me, but I didn't like the way that they wrote in how easily he was willing to sacrifice the crew,
Yeah.
even even if it was a possibility, man, that medical teleporter, that's awesome. But anyway, even if your medical teletransporter could have possibly, even been the cause of this, you know what I'm saying? You gonna sacrifice everybody? Nah, they don't seem very Starfleet to me, and I don't think that they should have wrote them like that.
Yeah, I had that issue too, and especially when I can understand why he wants to keep that a little bit alive because of his daughter, of course, but
Hmm.
to um, get the whole Enterprise crew in danger. No, I think that will never ever be a cure if they are a true Starfleet officer
Yeah, or who's gonna
or
rematerialize her
doctor.
if everybody's dead?
Yeah.
So he would be condemning his daughter anyway. So yeah, I didn't like, especially how they had wrote him being so intelligent through episode 1 and 2. Like he was on his P's and Q's as far
Yeah.
as, yeah, and then all of a sudden you gonna be a person who makes this type of decision. Nah, that's weird. That was weird right there for me. But I understand, but it was weird.
I know. I had the same issue, but okay, that's it. Were a few errors in it that I saw, but let's go back to the episode itself. Crew is back on the Enterprise, but they are acting strange. They have very strange symptoms, and one of the symptoms are that they need light. So they turn on the light more, and even Cadet Launch of Anson Launch, who was the first one who had infected with the virus, he broke the glass with his head. If you do that and you are in outer space, that would suck him and Ortega out of that corridor.
I think he just broke a panel. I think he
Mm.
just broke a light panel. I don't think that there. I don't think that there was I don't think there was a pressure bulkhead or a outside structure. I think that was just a light panel that he was
Mm.
trying to get himself into, or some type of
Okay.
energy conduit or something.
Mm.
But
That would be
but I'm
explained, yeah.
I think that's what it was, because yeah, if he was trying to do something crazy like that, Ortega, because she's awesome. I love that lady. She's all right with me.
Yeah, I like her too. she's cool.
You know, on a side note, um, I'm about to do a comparison here.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Discovery, for instance, if they were to have written Ortega in Discovery, all right, you would know for a fact because it would have been beaten over your head her sexual orientation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. In Strange New Worlds, the way that they wrote her character, you can obviously tell she has a preference. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
but that is not something that defines her character. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, she is like when I look at her, I see a damn great pilot.
Yep.
All right. And a person who messes with the lower cadets. But other than that,
Did you
other you know,
see how she maneuvers the Enterprise in episode 2?
oh, that was beautiful. The Ortega maneuver.
Oh my god, yeah.
That's all right with me. That's all right. We got the Picard maneuver, we got the Carbonite maneuver, and now we got the Ortega maneuver. That's what I'm saying. Hmm. So, um, this virus, right? What did you think of, I guess, how alien it was?
Well, I think it's very interesting because it's not only in way with Una, because
Hmm.
Una, this is the first time we hear that she is an Illyrian. So,
Hmm.
and we see that in the episode almost at the end when she fights Laan to not have a warp core breach, and you see how strong she is, and that was the funny thing too. When she stopped Chief Hammer, she just put him over her shoulder and brought him back to the sick bay. And I
Oh
was
my God! You know
saying,
what I thought? I was like, man, Andorians must be really, really light.
yeah, I was thinking that too. I was thinking, oh my god, is she so strong or what?
Yeah, she stunned him and it filled him with air or something, man. I was like, how did this? She just picked him up with ease, like was just like,
Yeah,
but.
if
Hmm.
he was a doll. That was so
So
funny.
okay, here we go with those consistency things. Because you know me, I'm a person that deals with canon, so I have to see things in canon, right? So we had that part that Una did, right, and that was awesome. But then I have this nuisance called canon. I flash back to that time where number one Pike and that yeoman had got kidnapped um, by the Telosians, right?
Yeah.
And they was all inside that cage. And if that was the case, number one could have just simply hit that wall. I mean, hit that glass and
Yeah.
broke it. Or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like nowhere in the menagerie of the cage where she could have displayed that those abilities, whereas it would have helped out a whole lot. They didn't show that. Now, if could it be that she was hiding her Illyrian side during the events of the cage? But I don't think so because the events of the cage are after the events that's
Yes.
going on in Strange New
That's
Worlds.
that's the weird thing, because Pike
Right.
knew that.
Exactly. So in a menagerie, Pike would have been like, "Yo, number one, man, use some of your Illyrian something, man. Get us out this cage. Get us out this prison. So, but again, because we didn't really go too much into number one's character, to fill it in with something that adds to canon is still pretty cool.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think this episode is very well written in the way of Una's story.
I know, right?
Yeah,
They did a really good job with that.
they
I
really
was,
did it. You know, I said it in the last episode. The writing is much better than in Picard and Discovery.
hmm it seems almost like they got some OG writers from old Trek to actually come and assist
Yeah.
them or something. Because like the writing is markedly better. Like if you was to put Discovery, Picard, and Strange New Worlds first three episodes of any of the seasons of Picard or any of the seasons of Discovery against the first three episodes of Strange New Worlds, you would be
Yeah.
like wow, like why didn't those writers help out?
Yeah, but they are, what I love about is that they are very true to TOS.
Hmm.
And
Yep.
then we are coming also, what do you think of the intro team?
Of the who?
Intro team.
Oh my God. Let me tell you. The first time I seen the intro to Strange New Worlds, right? I went and I tried to find that theme so I could download it to my phone. All right, because the drums, the way the drums kick in on the intro theme, like that whole thing, I was thinking to myself, Jerry Goldsmith would have been proud. All right. The second time I seen the episode, right, I was by myself looking around, so I couldn't share it with anybody. So third time, I paused it right after the intro, ran upstairs, got my son, who's also a Trekkie, brung him down. I said, because he refuses to watch any single episode of Star Trek. He waits till the whole season is done and then he binge watches it. Strangest
Mm.
thing I ever seen in my life. Oh yeah, because now I can't discuss it with him. It's strangest thing in the world. But I wanted him to see this intro, and as soon as he seen it, guess what he did? He went upstairs, right, and he downloaded that thing to his computer. That theme is awesome. What do you think?
I loved it. The first time Pike muttered those famous words of famous lines, I was almost crying because it was so good. It's
It
yeah,
was awesome, right?
it reminds me so much back of TOS and
Hmm.
the whole. But like that's what I say too. They are true to TOS, and
Hmm.
yes, it's in a modern way, but still it is TOS. And the intro team, yes, it is different, but it is also almost the same as the TOS team.
Hmm.
And I loved it.
It basically is. He used as the base
Yeah.
the original TOS theme, and he filled it in wonderfully with those drums like dude did his thing. He loved the theme that Jerry Goldsmith put together. Well, he did. Jerry Goldsmith didn't do the original theme, but he loved the theme that was put together for the original series, and he wanted to pay homage to that. You know what I mean? He didn't want to do something crazy like change it or make it unrecognizable or put his own thing in it. He said, "No, this song, the theme to the original series show was just as much a part of the show as the ship was as a character. So if we see this ship in the intro, this song in some way has to be with it. Also, um, the thing is, I think that in the writers' room of the next of Strange New Worlds, right before you go into the writers' room, they have right on the door before you enter, space, the final frontier. They have that there, and I think this is why, because if you read that intro, you know exactly what you finna go in this room and write about. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You know you finna go in this room and you're about to tell an awesome story that's finna be filled with heroism, boldness, you know, meeting new worlds and new civilizations. So that's what we're gonna do. We not so that I don't think they put that thing on Discovery and Picard's wall. But yeah, they the theme, the way they highlight each piece of the Enterprise from the lights coming on is it was just well done. It was beautifully well done.
This is also, by the way, that the Enterprise has powered down in 2 episodes. 2 times in two
Hmm.
episodes. We never
Yep.
seen that in TOS.
Oh man, Miranda, you know what? And I'm gonna have to sit down and watch a lot of Star Trek with you. Okay? Because so check this out, right? It was this episode called Court Martial. All right.
Mm.
And in the episode Court Martial, they didn't turn off all the lights, but what they did do was they turned off everything that made noise. Okay. If it made noise, they turned it off. And the reason that they did that was, and it was so cool that they did this, they was trying to find if somebody was hiding on the Enterprise. And Bones, and so the only sounds that they were able to hear through the computer speakers, Bones had programmed everybody who was known on the Enterprise heartbeats. So you just heard all these heartbeats.
Mm.
And Bones would use his medical tricorder to walk up to each person and eliminate their heartbeats, right? And you was just left with one heartbeat, and that's how they found out this dude was hiding on the Enterprise. But that's the only other time, to my knowledge, where they shut down all the systems just so they find this one dude.
Yeah, I
But
know.
man, hey, so what did you think of the Illyrians?
I think they are very interesting because I always thought they were something else, but they are almost like comparing with the arguments. And
Mm-hmm.
but the way that they make Una an Illyrian, and with those powers of generating their own DNA, etc., and genetics, I find it very interesting that they did it in this episode. Like, okay, Una will be the hero, and but she has to come clean of what she is. And the strange thing is what they say about Starfleet not willing to accept Illyrians in the ranks of Starfleet, or because of their genetics, etc. Um, reminds me of like how discriminating it is, and also, of course, with Julian Bashir.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it is a and that's what I really love about her, is that when she went to Pike tell what she really is, and she wanted to quit Starfleet, and she was preparing to get her punishment of that. Um, I think, and that's what I love about Pike too. He knows the value of her, and it's very interesting how they written the story of the Aryans, and you could see that also with the fire ghost of on the planet that really truly
Mm-hmm.
are were the colonists in there, and that was what I really was surprising too, is that when before Pike and Spock beamed over back again to the Enterprise, the ghosts, fire ghosts as I call them, um, give them a little present, and that were the journals of the colonists who actually lived there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's of course they haven't covered a lot about the um, Ireans, but it's a good thing that we know now what I don't want to say what Una is capable of, but we know now what kind of a species she is.
So, okay, we now have three representatives of the Illyrian race. We have Ona, we have the guys with the ridges that Archer stole the warp core from in Enterprise, and we have the ionic plasma guy versions of the Illyrians. And if you think about it, right? Because when the Illyrians were into their eugenics program, it was based on, well, from what we found out in episode Damages from the original series, but they
Wasn't
terror
there also not one in TNG that fell in love with Dr. Crusher?
an Illyrian. Was he an Illyrian?
I can't
I
remember,
think he
but
was. I thought he was Trill.
was
Well,
he
the first version
Trill?
of Trill.
Well, I will. You can hear that, guys, in the next episode of Girls Talking Track, but because this is exactly the same episode I have to watch for it, it's called Symbiosis. So, but that's why I thought that he was also one, but okay.
Well, yeah, I may be wrong, but I think let me see. It was one dude. It was one guy too that he was a succubus, so he don't count. Picard, that was if Millie maybe, so that don't count. To my knowledge, the only other person who was one Dr. Crusher was this dude with like these kind of ridges on his head, who almost looks like an Illyrian from Enterprise. But if that's the guy, he was the first time a trio was featured in the episode, and
I thought that was another
that's
episode.
say again.
I think that is another episode because I remember, yes, she was in love with a Trill, but the
Mhm.
Trill symbiosis got went to another host, and that was a
Yeah, the
female.
female. Yeah, that would have been nice to see Dr. Crusher. She was just a hater.
Well, I think that was in the. You are talking about the 90s, Tommy, so that was still a taboo. A taboo subject.
I don't know, man, because Dax and her ex-wife got together, and that was in Deep Space Nine around the same time period. Oh yeah, it was a
Mm.
whole lot of controversy over that episode. Never mind. Yep, I remember that. It was two women kissing on screen. Oh my God, it was all up in the TV guide on the news and stuff like that. Oh yeah, I remember that. Never mind. You're right. You're absolutely right. hmm I thought it was just a great episode. I was like, yeah, go
That was
ahead,
a great.
Dax.
There's a lot of great Star Trek episodes, and one of the reasons I do those Star Trek extra episodes on Arena Talks is that's because it's totally different, but it is also nice to watch or just talk about Star Trek.
So let me ask you, going back to the episode, right? Um, so they find that the Illyrians wanted to, and this is the first time I remember anything like this as far as augments go or bioengineering in Star Trek goes. They're the first people who were trying to reverse the things that were done that they did to themselves. You know what I mean? They were
Mm.
trying to
Mm.
de-engineer themselves, and that was the first time that concept, to my knowledge, had ever been in Star Trek. Whenever they came up with anything that had to do with bioengineering, they have always focused on trying to improve it, even at the detriment of those advancements. Like, for instance, those people that Julian Bashir was helping. You know,
Mm.
those other augments. You know, they were hilarious, by the way. But these were the first race, to my knowledge, that were trying to reverse all of that simply so that they can join the Federation. And
Mm.
that made so much sense with, because when you first seen the energy entities out there in the Ion Storm, you thought that they were going to be the bad guys,
Mm-hmm.
the way that they were trying to
Yeah.
get in, and all that kind of stuff. You thought that they were going to be the bad guys. But if these guys were truly the remnants of the Illyrians that were on this colony, then they share those same values of wanting to be in the Federation, the good of
Mm.
the many.
But that
You know,
was in this.
so
You could see that in this episode as well.
yeah, and, just how they were so adamant about protecting Archer and Spock. I mean, not Archer. Oh my God, I say Archer. Protecting Spock, and Pike.
Did you know? And this is one of the bloopers I saw from Strange New World. Anson Mount was saying he had to say, Lieutenant Spock do this and that, but instead of that he said Lieutenant Spike do this and that.
Well, you know how they blend, couples' names together. You got
Yeah, yeah,
what was
yeah,
it,
yeah.
Bennifer and everything. So I could call them Spike. They're a team, it's the team Spike. Now somebody might get the wrong idea. Are they dating? Nah, that's problems.
But I do like how Spock is developing like his social self, and he is not that super serious as we know Leonard Nimoy would play Spock.
Exactly. In the Menagerie in a Cage, it was nothing for Spock to just bust out laughing. You know, he
No.
didn't get kind of serious until later.
Oh my god, you remember that moment of
Oh yeah.
amok time that Spock thought he killed Kirk, and when Spock came back and said, "Okay, Doc, you can give the command to Scully, and I will resign, and this and that. I just killed the captain," and Kirk stood behind him and said, "Well, don't you have to ask me first because I'm still much alive, you know?" And his reaction, Spock's reaction, was priceless.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Don't get it twisted. Spock let it loose sometime. In the episode The Cage, when when they first got down to the planet, they heard these this like chime noise. And there was these leaves. There was these
Yeah.
leaves from these plants. And Pike and Spock walked over, and I think Spock touched one of them, and it stopped the ringing. And Spock's actually smiled.
Yeah.
Smiled, big old grin. Looked at Pike and was like, "Yeah, this is pretty cool." So he has his humor. It's just that once he started going more towards the Kolinar, that's when he started being like, "Oh, okay, we ain't trying to be doing all that laughing and that's illogical." That. But early Spock, man, early Spock was all kind of
I
personable.
love early Spock.
You could jam with early Spock, man. Early Spock used to go down there with his little violin guitar, and you heard, man, and they used to do concerts in in their little 10 Ford. Oh yeah, Spock was all right.
You remember that episode with Spock's brains? That,
Oh, of course.
oh my god, I love that episode. It's just so Spock also.
That episode is the epitome of 60s cheese. That
Yeah,
right there.
it is.
Oh, oh my goodness. So, what do you think of I guess the story of the colonists, the Illyrian colonists? What ends up happening to them? What do you think? How did that hit you?
I think it's more that the story of Una hits me. That she's being an Illyrian, and how she changed in with what the virus is doing on the ship. So, but I do love the real scene of them protecting Spock and Pike, and I had to watch 2 times too, because the first time was really I didn't really pay attention of it, but I mean, yeah, it's really interesting how they've been an outcast image everywhere because of their genetics, and but it would be interesting the process to see how they essentially would be accepted by Starfleet.
Now, speaking of Starfleet and the Illyrians and Una, number one, right? So Una is in Starfleet, which means that Una had to attend Starfleet Academy, which means that Una had to go through Starfleet medical screening. Okay?
Yeah.
Blood works, DNA, and all that good stuff. So are they saying that some Illyrians, due to their genetic manipulation, are identical to humans? Some of them? Because those are things they would have been able to pick up on that. They have missed things, like when what was the name? Instant Tarses or whatever. He came in trying to be a Vulcan, but come find out he's a Romulan. What was that episode? Drumhead from the Next Generation. But
Mm-hmm.
so we know that sometimes, really close species, like Romulan and Vulcan, can make it through Starfleet medical somehow. But in an actual Illyrian passing as a human, now did they? I don't ever remember them stating that number one classified as human, but I'm trying to figure out. Okay, well, if she's not human, they would have picked that up in the scans, wouldn't they?
Well,
Medical.
I have the theory about it, like perhaps Una's whole physical and cells and generation, etc. Maybe that has never been triggered because maybe she already have been brought up with humans, etc. So the whole Illyrian thing that triggered what they are Illyrians known for has never been triggered.
Yes, I'm picking out what you're putting down.
So
So
yeah.
All right. Yeah. You was talking about Lieutenant Nguyen Singh. Now, I had to rewind this part because I was wondering if I heard right. She had said that she was raised as a kid in a Gorn nursery.
Yeah.
And I had to rewind it because I was thinking to myself, did she say Gorn? We know how those dudes roll. Let me make sure she said Gorn, right? Now, when I realized that she actually did say Gorn, I was thinking to myself, oh, you got the most tragic backstory of anybody that had to do in anything is Star Trek. And hands down, right now, you didn't won. You won already. You in a Gorn nursery. I can't imagine the evil that was. Because Gorns don't care nothing about non-Gorns.
But that's what she also talked about in that episode.
Yeah. Like the baby species of something, they don't care about that. They don't, which is probably why they was feeding the babies to their babies. But which is jacked up. I'm like, oh man, yeah, Gorn is. They don't really feature Gorn too much in Star Trek. I think they've only maybe been in like 3 out of all the series. I think twice in Enterprise and once in the original series when Kirk fought one. But man, like I felt like that was a real messed up thing to put in there. But that explains her a whole lot and why she reminds me of Drummer from The Expanse. Mm-hmm.
Well, it is also, I think it makes her how she is and reacts, because I must say, if she would be one of my colleagues, I wouldn't like her one bit.
Oh no, she's a butthole.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's, especially how she was talking to what was it, Uhura and
yeah, and Spock.
Yeah, I'm like, man, Spock is just outrank you, lady. What did you do? Oh no, he's still a lieutenant right now instead of lieutenant commander.
Yeah, but still, I mean, you don't talk about people like that. And also, like, when she talks about with Captain Pike, I was thinking, normally you wouldn't talk like that to a captain.
Oh yeah, yeah. But she was raised as Gorn food, and survived it. So you go ahead and be hard. That's probably her being nice.
Probably, yeah.
Hey, like really, you was raised as Gorn food. Yeah, that's probably your nice right there. And that, okay. So her genetic, is she, because she mentioned her dad in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, she mentioned a lot because we got to see a bunch of the backstory between her and Una's relationship as well while they were doing that fighting, as you was talking about. How she feels about Una hiding the fact that she was an augment,
Mm-hmm.
So does that mean that so we know that Lieutenant Nguyen Singh is not an augment, but she mentioned her father. So I wonder how far removed from the actual Khan she is. And if Khan is an augment and he had children, that augmentation genetics should have followed, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I wonder if but she didn't look like she had strength comparable to, or anything like that comparable to number one. So I wonder, one, how far she was removed from Khan. Two, basically a little bit more about her story as it relates to Khan, since they decided to relate them to each other for some strange reason.
Yeah, well, I think maybe they will show us that in the next episodes that are coming. Um, but also, yeah, I was wondering that too because when she fought Una, um, Una was much stronger, and we know the arguments are really strong and genetic that they would, they would could be matched each other.
Hmm.
So yeah, who knows what else is coming around? Perhaps
Yeah.
we're going to see Brent Spiner as a New Year soon again. How
Of
many
course,
so?
he has something to do with it. That would be Brian Soong, and that he'll be playing the role of Brian Soong, which is Adam Soong's grandson, and Eric Soong's great grandfather. They all look just like Brent Spiner. You know how it is. He
Mm-hmm.
got strong genetics.
Mm-hmm.
You know what?
Yeah.
I should probably do a video one day because they have a lot of different augments in Star Trek. They have the
Yeah.
Soong augments. They have, I was about to say the Khan augments, but apparently those are just a different version of Soong augments. So you got the World War III Soong augments. You got the Enterprise Soong augments. You have the Illyrian augments. You have those augments from the Next Generation. What was it called? Where their immune system started making people age.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember those little kids that they? Yeah, you
Yeah.
have those. I wonder
Yeah.
what happened to those little kids. Did they leave them there to die? Never mind. Whole nother episode. But it'd be interesting to do a video on the various different augments. The Julian Bashir augments and the other augments that he dealt with to do a ranking of based on their abilities as shown in canon. Who had the best augments. Klingon augments. So I think I might have to. We should do a video like that one day, Miranda. That's what we should do. Hmm.
Write it down, then you can't forget it.
I'm probably gonna forget in 10 minutes. I'm old.
There was one thing what Pike also mentioned, and that is that the Illyrians have been misunderstood by a lot of species and people. And what do you think about it?
Um, well, just like they say, there's a reason. I mean, there's an actual concrete reason why the Federation does not like augmentation. You know what I mean? World War III, the Superman Wars. So every instance of when the Federation has ran into an augment, besides maybe one, right? Maybe two instances. All the rest of them have been like hell bent on taking over something. The world, the sector, the ship, something. They hell bent on taking over something. So I can totally and plus, if you just want to look at the safety side, just that side. But then I think it was Cisco who mentioned this side. What if people start augmenting their children, how is that fair for people who are not augmented? You know what I mean? So if, for instance, to join Starfleet, all right, it'll set up a class system. All right, well, parents are not going to feel strong to get their kids augmented so that they could be successful in Starfleet or in the Federation, in the Federation position. So, it's a whole lot of reasons why Hell, even that holographic doctor that was talking to Bashir in that same episode was telling him, "Hey, man, this is why we do this." I mean, he laid it out the best. He was telling Bashir why the Federation never allowed that. So I understand. You done wiped out 30% of the population. What did they call it? The first population. When Pike was explaining it in episode, what was it, 1? He called it the first population, which meant that, all right, we messed ourselves up so bad, we had to repopulate the Earth because of these augments. So I understand. That's one of the only that's one of the only prejudices left in Starfleet. Well, that and Prophet, but that's one of the only prejudices left in Starfleet.
So do you think also that we're going to see something of like the Khan effect in Strange New World?
Oh my God, I hope not. They better not. They better not. If they ever fly through space and they pick up a signal that they even say remotely sounds or looks like a Botany-based ship, we're going to have a fight. Right there. The Botany Bay is adrift somewhere that don't nobody even know that it exists until Kirk runs across it in Space Seed. Leave it alone. You done already, unnecessarily, I might add, added a relationship to this dude through the addition of Lieutenant Nguyen Singh. Okay, already. So just build on her. Leave Khan out of it. Leave that alone. Just build on her. So you know everything about Khan, little lady? That's what she said. She says she knows everything about Khan. Spock didn't even know everything about Khan. So, nah. They should just leave that alone. Things they should leave alone, Narendra. I'm gonna tell you for this, and it's gonna be a weird thing. It's gonna be a weird dynamic because if the whole series, and it's looking like it's shaping up to be an outstanding addition to the Star Trek family, if they end it though, changing Pike's story, it will blow the whole series away from me. Like it would negate everything that they did for me. If they make some kind of link saying that Khan, one of the most famous bad guys in Star Trek history, was found and they set him adrift, they set him back adrift and just erased his memory or some kind of crap like that. Nope. That's going to negate. You could tell you certain things. Uhura's backstory, we didn't know too much about it. Number One's backstory, we didn't know too much about it. Y'all could build up on these things. But we know about Khan. Like, we know about those events. We know about, we know about Pike. We know about those events. You know what I mean? These are, as Doctor Who would say, fixed points. You can't mess with fixed points.
So
what do you think? You think it'd be cool if they changed one of those two aspects?
I think it would be better to do some background stories about the arguments than that they will use those familiar things, familiar tropes already in an episode, whatever. So I think.
Oh my God, that would be an outstanding episode, Orinda. I'm so sorry. If time travel, if Lieutenant Nguyen Singh somehow in Strange New Worlds was able to time travel back to the time of the Augment Wars, that would be an awesome episode. Orinda, you awesome. That's why I like talking to you.
I hope one thing that they will not use the time travel shenanigan in Strange New Worlds.
Really? Why?
Why? Because it is messing so much up. Only if they use it like when they did that in TNG episodes when they meet Guinan for the first time.
Right, that's
But
what I'm saying. If they do the writing correct, because the time travel episodes in say Picard, we as Trekkies we familiar with the butterfly effect. You can't be doing that kind of stuff.
mm,
But if they were to do it like say for instance that one or the Bell riots with Deep Space Nine,
mm,
you know what I mean? If
yeah,
or where
that
Captain
would be
Janeway went back and
yeah,
was pretending to be one of her ancestors at the bridge,
yeah,
if they are able to do that, it would be a nice look into era of Star Trek that everybody knows about, but they never really discuss, and that's the eugenics wars.
yeah, yeah. If they had writing it correctly, then I have no problems with it. But what we saw in Picard, oh gosh, jeez.
Oh, she brought up the problem, kids. That's okay. We sent the show Picard off to boarding school and everything. Hopefully they'll straighten him out. And when he comes back home for season 3, maybe he'll be a more representative of Starfleet.
Oh, and what do you thought about the damn Will Wheaton? He tricked us.
Oh my God. You gonna get me to do it, ain't you? You know what I think you do? I think that you say certain things that you know that I'm gonna end up having to rant about. I think that's what it is. I think that's what it is right there. So you mean to tell me that Will Wheaton goes running off with the Travelers, all right? Then he takes a break from the Travelers to come back to have a sit down with the crew of the Enterprise for I think one of their ceremonies in one of the movies. All right. Then he goes back out and hangs out with the Travelers. Now, you mean tell me that Will Wheaton is a master of time space, right? And he is now a watcher. I'm sorry, the people who supervise the watchers in Star Trek canon. That's what you're trying to tell us. This Will Wheaton. Yeah. Wesley was pretty awesome in the series, kind of annoying most of the time, but to be at that level, nah, I don't know about that. I don't know about that at all. They should have had the actual Traveler show up.
Yeah.
Well, one of his representatives, Will Wheaton, now, dog. You can't come. You can't come ask me to join a galactic time group and it's Instant Crusher. No, nope.
Well, it is interesting that he was asking her, specifically her.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, who knows what else is going to come from that. So, but there was one thing, of course, and I didn't like that because they already had that announcement that a lot of TNG characters would come back in Picard season 3. They should have done that announcement later in the season, in maybe the last 2 episodes or whatever, but not already in the beginning. It's just super spoiling. But okay, there's one thing I hope is that Wesley Crusher would make his appearance when they have that little reunion in a way.
Yeah, if they was going to include Wesley Crusher, I think it should have been in a better way than him like that.
Yeah.
Hell, he didn't even have on a cool, traveler outfit. He was just in his street clothes like he came from down the block.
Yeah.
Hey, you want to join
That was
the Galactic
also
Organization?
weird.
Yeah. Hey, you want to go join the Galactic Organization? Dude, ain't you from 35th Street? No.
Now we mention his clothes. The clothes that he used to wear as a young boy. And if we are looking to the Traveler's clothes, I don't want to say it's identical, but it is in the same category, if you can say it like that.
Mm-mm.
It's like, yeah, it's maybe already a hint that Wesley would be a traveler.
Oh. Well, they should have. I don't know. It should have been, if they was going to include, it should have been more spectacular, I should say. That was dull to me. It was dull, forced. It had no amazement to it. You know what I'm saying? Like if they had done it a different way, like I said, maybe a whole nother different way. than that. I can't even think of a way that would have included Wesley Crusher in that scenario that would have worked. But not that way. No, no, not that way. Mm-mm. And
So
he was
I'm
just looking goofy.
no, well,
I can't trust you, dude. You looking goofy. Like, nope, I ain't gonna rant. I ain't gonna rant no rant. I swear to God, I ain't. He can't even shave, and he want me to come join his organization. Your beard look all jacked up, nappy. Nah, I ain't got time for that. Mm-mm. I'm gonna have to pass on that, Wesley.
well, if we're coming back to the episode, what do
Mhm.
you think about what the doctor did to preserve his daughter's memories?
So, as a dad, I'm totally with the doctor. I'm totally with the doctor up until a point. You know what I'm saying? But the thing that confuses me is this: that procedure right there that Dr. Mbega had did, that's not consistent with that situation. Because in Starfleet, normally, if a person has an incurable disease, they need to operate on them later, they put them in a stasis pod. They don't put them in a transporter buffer.
Hmm.
Okay, so I was, if she was in a stasis pod and all of that was going on, that would have been a little bit more. That would have been more believable. But as far as him deciding, hey, you know what? There's a problem going on around the ship. Everybody could be dying. I know this because I'm the chief medical officer. I've been diagnosing all these people, right? If it's even a possibility that something I'm doing or something I did or a piece of equipment I have or something in my section is the cause of this, if all of us is to die, then by extension, my daughter dies because she can't be maintained. You know what I mean? So if he was truly trying to do the things necessary to save his daughter, he wouldn't have been trying to hinder the investigation around his sick bay. I thought that was out of character. So you
Yeah.
finna sacrifice the whole ship, really, dude? And your daughter, when you talking about saving her life, like that, they didn't. I think they should have wrote that a little bit better.
Yeah, and it's also what I mentioned before is that how short that it is not only Una's story, but also that story of that little girl. But they made it like a fragment of the episode, but it's also a very big part of what's going on the Enterprise.
I don't know. The I don't know. I think that so okay. Would you have been okay with what he did as far as all right, I'm not gonna tell nobody.
I can understand him as from a parent point of view,
Mhm.
but I also
But
think that if you want to remember your daughter, you can do that on different other ways.
yeah, especially in an emergency situation where everybody about to die.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
So yeah, it's a double coin thing of understanding, I guess. But if it was me and I had to choose, okay, not having that memory of my daughter in that kind of way he did, or it will kill all the crew, then of course I will choose for the crew to live and not that memory in that way because, yeah, like I said, there are other ways to remember.
And I love the way number one handled that issue with them at the end. She was still stern, yet she was sympathetic, to him. She even was like, hey man, look, all this, I'm very surprised and disappointed that you even had that thought, just like everybody watching the episode. But What we do is we're gonna what did she say? Devote basically a warp power line to his medical teleport. Oh my God, I love the medical transporter because that's some new stuff. I guess they took that out when Bones got there because that little girl was stuck up in it. But I like the fact that she was stern as her job is as a first officer, but still was like, hey, I understand as a as a woman, as a mother, or whatever. Here you go. This is this your power thing from now on.
I think we're going to we're a little bit of the end of this episode. Is there something you'd like to add?
Oh no, ma'am. I thought it was a great conversation as always. I love our conversations about Star Trek.
So there's only one thing we still have to do, and that is rating this episode. So how would you rate this?
Oh snap! Okay, all right. That's a tricky one, Orinda. All right, okay. So, The Visitor, Far Beyond the Stars will always be 10. So I'm gonna have to rate it based on those. So I'm gonna give it an outstanding 6. Yes, that is an outstanding score on my scale. Because remember, The Visitor, Far Beyond the Stars are 10s. So yes, that was a very strong 6. I was very impressed with that episode. What about you?
I would give it an 8.
Oh snap! I'm curious. What would you give a 10?
I think a 10 would be for me like the two-parters, like when Janeway fought the Borg or in TNG, etc. And of course there are a few more that you can say, but yeah, I think it's. But bear in mind, it's if you combine all the Star Trek series and you have to choose. Yeah, I think this would be an 8 for me. So.
Nice. Yeah, they're doing a very good job. They haven't. Yeah, out of the 3 episodes they put out, they haven't. None of them was mediocre. All of them were added something to canon. All of them represented Star Trek well.
Well, Tommy, thank you for having this conversation again. Always love it.
Always, anytime. Thank you for having me. I'm always excited about this kind of stuff.
Yeah, so we will talk soon again, I guess.
Yes, ma'am.
If it is about Star Trek, we always talk. We have a lot to talk about.
Trying to get your attention.
Thank you again, and see you soon.
Likewise. Peace and recycle, say the whales, Orinda.
Live long and prosper.
Bye-bye.
Dear listeners, thank you for listening, and join me next week for a new recap of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. This was an extra episode of Orinda Talks in the Star Trek series, and it's because by love for Star Trek. If you'd like to comment or talk with me about this episode, you can reach out on the Facebook group or the YouTube channel of Orinda Talks. You can also subscribe to the YouTube channel and join the Facebook group. See you next week.